What's up, Braves country? It's your man Blake King, and we're here to talk about a little trade that could possibly be happening in the offseason. Now, it's no secret to anybody that Josh Donaldson is probably going to walk away if the Braves don't give him the money he's asking for. With the suitors like the Dodgers, who are kind of keen on Rendon right now, but they're also keen on Donaldson, and then there's the Rangers who also like Donaldson. Everybody likes Donaldson because of the big year he had with us. And I just don't see it, and I don't know if it's worth it for the Braves to bring him back on a 3 year or longer deal. And especially with the money he'd be asking per year, I honestly don't think it's worth it. Therefore, we have a couple of other options, such as Johan Camargo starting out on the opening day, or Austin Riley. But based on what Double A has been saying, Austin Riley is probably not going to be our guy at third base on opening day. So right now, it's probably going to be Johan Camargo, which wouldn't be a bad thing at all, but it could obviously better. So let's start out with one of the biggest names in baseball at third base, Kris Bryant, Cubs for the third baseman. Kris Bryant there's been some rumblings about Kris Bryant. He's available to some extent. It's just going to be a very high price to get him at. So the general manager has made it known that the big core of the Cubs organization, consisting of Anthony Rizzo, Javier Baez, Kris Bryant, Wilson Contreras, so on, that they're going to be available. Except their direction is kind of confusing because they're talking about extending the Baez, but that's a whole different story. What we're focused on is Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant would be the best option at third base for the Braves next season, and here's why. He's entering his age 28 season. It's no secret if you watch baseball, those are your prime years. And especially if Donaldson did what he did last year at age 33, imagine what Kris Bryant would do at age 33 as well. I mean, Donaldson had a quick few years, 2014, 2015, 2016. Those were his three big years. Bryant's been consistent his whole career. Bryant's been great. He has a career OPS of over 900. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. He's also won an MVP. He's a three-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, and he has a ring. He has that experience to bring us to the promised land. Now, here's the thing. It's just going to be a very high price. Like, I think a good, fair give to the Cubs would be Christian Pache, Kyle Mueller, and Kyle Wright. Because the Cubs have no arms, have absolutely zero arms in their farm system, and it's embarrassing. And their center fielding depth is horrible. Albert Almora stuck up the bed batting 232 last year, and Patty would be a great fit for them in center field. Now, whether we're willing to make that trade, I don't know what Double A's feeling is on that, but it's definitely something we should consider, considering Acuna is going to hold down center field or right field for how long, and Endero obviously being a Gold Glover in center field if we decide to stick with him. And other names that would probably have to be mentioned in a possible trade would be Max Fried. Max Fried is Mr. Reliable. Us as Braves fans, we kind of grew to love him the last couple of seasons, and it would be really hard to let him go. But he'll be a free agent in 2025. So the Cubs' only pitcher is Kyle Hendricks. You can argue that Yu Darvish is decent, but Kyle Hendricks is that only guy. So Max Fried going to them. So Max Fried would easily slide into the rotation. And then we have another name in Austin Riley. Austin Riley is a big corner piece. You can slide him into the outfield. You can slide him into third base. The Cubs would love to have him. I mean, any team would love to have him. He's a great bat, great power. Albert Pujols speaks highly of him. We all know that the Cardinals were horrific to the Cubs for the Albert Pujols era, so it'd be nice to get back to him a little bit with that. And then another guy would be Bryce Wilson. Bryce Wilson is a guy who is on the radar to fit into the rotation in spring training and hopefully be on the opening day roster. And the Cubs see our arms as gold because we have the best arms in baseball. Obviously, the Cubs and Astros took a different rebuilding strategy than us as they went with the hitters and we went with the pitchers. So another pitching prospect that they would probably like to see is Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson is, in my opinion, our best pitching prospect, and he has a very high ceiling and could really do some damage. Ender Inciarte is another guy. Like I said, Cubs have that center field void, and he could easily fill that in. And yeah, I mean, there's no reason they shouldn't inquire about him. So there were reports last year about Kris Bryant turning down a $200 million multi-year contract or whatever. And apparently, some people say it's false, some people say it's not. But either way, with the Machado deal being 10 years, $300 million, and the Arenado deal being 8 years, $260 million, Kris Bryant's going to get a heck of a payday when the time comes. His contract is secure to 2021, and he's currently on arbitration. But it's no secret that he's going to get a payday when the time comes. So, whether you think the price is right for Kris Bryant or not, it's definitely worth looking into it. Especially if you don't think he's going to put up the power numbers like Donaldson does. Just look at this statistic right here. Donaldson hit 215 versus lefties last year, while Bryant hit 295 against lefties. They both hit in the 270s against righties, which is great. Don't get me wrong, that's great, but that's an 80.8 difference against left-handed pitchers. That's crazy. And it's definitely worth it and would definitely have an impact in the 4 hole. And like I said, the price would be high, but we can't hold on to these prospects forever. We have to let it go sometimes. And Kris Bryant would be the man to get next season. All these pitching prospects are very nice, but none of them really are guaranteed to pan out. Like Bryce Wilson did great in AAA last year, but who knows what he's going to do in the majors next year. Kyle Wright was supposed to be that guy, and he did decent at best. Ian Anderson's and Kyle Mueller are the only two that I mentioned that have not reached the major leagues yet. And there's been guys in the past like Matt Whistler, Lucas Sims, John Gant, Tuki Toussaint, who haven't really, and just they haven't raised any eyebrows when they got their call. So it's just a matter of we can't hold on to these guys forever and wait for their value to expire. We have to trade them now while they have such a high priority and high command to other teams. So dealing it now with a future third baseman in the near future is just what needs to happen. And the Braves would be foolish not to look at least a lot into this trade. They need to look a lot into this trade. So that's the scoop on Kris Bryant this offseason and why the Braves should target him. Now, I just want to thank you guys for giving us another listen on Braves Country News. You can give us a follow at Braves Country News on Instagram and as well as Twitter. I'm Blake King. My Instagram is BlakeKing7. Thank you very much and chop on.